my goal for my first year was to do 24 transactions. So in my head, I kind of thought, if I could do 2 a month, that would be really great. And the stretch goal, I would say at that time was like, okay, if I could do like 50 transactions, that would be absolutely crazy. But really it was, how can I get 2 a month? And the first time that I ever had 4 pendings, and I was like breaking down, I was like hysterically crying. I'm like, I don't know how anyone keeps track of anything. This is crazy. I don't know what I'm doing. And I realized like that was kind of my first ceiling, if you will.
Mhm.
And I feel like, as we're going, you hit that, like that breakdown, and then you figure out your systems, and then it launches you to the next one. And then you get to that next ceiling and you figure out some new systems. And then and I truly feel like that's how my career has gone the last 10 years. So that first year I ended up doing 33
Oh,
transactions.
wow.
Welcome to America's Inner Circle, the podcast that dives deep into the stories, strategies, and secrets of the most successful real estate agents in the game. Whether you're an aspiring agent, a seasoned pro, or just love a good success story, you're in the right place. Each episode, we sit down with top agents who share their journey from the ground up, how they overcame challenges, seized opportunities, and made their mark in the competitive world of real estate. Ready to learn from the best? Let's unlock the keys to real estate success together. Here is your peek into the Inner Circle.
Hi, this is Mel Allen, your host of the Inner Circle podcast. This is a podcast where we're diving deep into the stories of the most successful real estate agents in the country. If you want to learn how to establish yourself as a top agent, well, you're in the right spot. And today, we're honored to have Brittney McAllister from Omaha, Nebraska. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So you've been in this for a little while. You were just, as I was chatting with you before I hit the record button, said 10 years this summer. So
Yes.
now, how did things get started? What was it that drew you to real estate? Walk us through that process of kind of getting into it and then your first sale.
Yeah. So those that know me have probably heard the story 100 times. And it's kind of I always say I was the weird kid growing up who wanted to be a real estate agent. So, some people want to be teachers and doctors. And I was like, no, I'm going to sell houses. So my mom got her real estate license when I was 11.
Mhm.
And I like distinctly remember helping her study for her real estate exam.
Yep.
And just like giving her flashcards and like helping her, prepare for that licensing test. And from then on, I just loved every bit of it. Like wanted to show the houses and be with her at open houses and all those things. So yeah, every like career aptitude test from like middle school on was me trying to like, how can I manipulate this so that it says I'm going to be a real estate agent?
Well, and you must have organically just kind of learned a lot if you're doing the flashcards, if you're, kind of being the study buddy for your mom. That,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you can't help but kind of get a little bit interested in it. And open houses, when you're a kid, those, it's so cool to like just be like, we get to walk around somebody's house and pretend like we know all these things about it,
Right. Right. It was, and then, yeah, like, I think a lot of it just, driving in the car with her growing up. And I like a lot of it was just osmosis, like just
Yeah.
being around and hearing the way that she did things and, the way that she handled different situations and the way she treated her clients. And so all of that stuff I felt like really propelled me at the beginning of my career. I had a really strong foundation because when I first started, I was on her team. So I was able to ask her questions, and it was my mom. So it didn't feel like I was asking, nothing felt like a stupid question. I never,
Right. Nothing would be off limits. Right. It's mom.
no,
Yeah.
exactly. And like, even now that, I'm 10 years in and there's still times when I call her and I'm like, this is a weird, like, this is a crazy thing. Talk me through this. Or have you ever seen this before? And we know in real estate that there's never a dull moment and we're learning new things every day. And so we still obviously have that relationship, even though we're not on the same team anymore. And so that's been really cool as well.
Nice. So you're on mom's team, you got your real estate license. So what was that first deal like? What was, how did that happen?
Yes. So I have a lot of like very funny stories, I feel like, at the beginning of my career, but my very first sale, and I would say at the beginning of my career, a lot of people, or looking back, they're like, well, your mom was in the business, so it must have been super easy. And I sort of stopped them like, no, my mom was in the business. She still is in the business. She was not giving me any clients. That was like anybody I ever knew from when I was, growing up, our friends, our family, everyone around us, like those are mom's past clients. Like I had to go find my own
Yeah,
people
go
because
get your own,
everyone
right.
else, right, everyone else had already worked with mom. So, my first sale, this is funny, it was actually my dad, and my parents are divorced.
Okay.
So, my
Starting to
very
make sense then, yeah.
right. So very first transaction, my dad needs to buy a house, and the catch was he's like, "I don't need your mom knowing about this stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't know what I'm doing. Like I don't know anything. Like
Right.
you get your license and then you don't know how to learn. You don't know how to write a contract, you don't know how to negotiate really like." I'm like, "No, I was 21." So I was like, "Well, mom has to help." And he's like so that was an interesting dynamic for my
Yeah.
first transaction for sure.
Not your average, I would say, probably
Yes.
first
Yep.
transaction. But, I mean, at some point, you had a transaction where you were like, "Hey, you know what? This does feel right." Kind of when did you hit that point of feeling like it was really the right career?
So this is really funny. And I don't know where this number came from, if my mom just kind of picked it out of a hat or I don't know, but my goal for my first year was to do 24 transactions. So in my head, I kind of thought, if I could do 2 a month, that would be really great. And the stretch goal, I would say at that time was like, okay, if I could do like 50 transactions, that would be absolutely crazy.
Right.
But really it was how can I get 2 a month? And the first time that I ever had 4 pendings. I like distinctly remember I had 4 pendings at once and I was like breaking down. I was like hysterically crying. I'm like, I don't know how anyone keeps track of anything. This is crazy. I don't know what I'm doing. And I realized like that was kind of my first ceiling, if you will.
Mhm.
And I feel like, as we're going, you hit that like that breakdown and then you figure out your systems and then it launches you to the next one and then you get to that next ceiling and you figure out some new systems and then and I truly feel like that's how my career has gone the last 10 years. So that first 4 pendings I'll never forget. I like remember where I was sitting. I remember the whole thing and my mom she wrote down like a whole list like, "Hey, just go through this stuff." And so I'm a paper person. I still am. I have folders everywhere. What I did is I stapled to a manila folder a checklist. And
Mhm.
so every pending had a folder and it had a checklist and I just paper like would keep track of everything. And that was really how it all started. So that first year I ended up doing 33
Oh,
transactions.
wow.
Yes, and
That's real good.
that was yeah, blew my goal out. I, like, thought it was great. I loved it, and then we basically jumped from there, so
So you must look back now and be like, "4 pending." That's so
well,
easy.
it
What
is,
was
and
it
we
worried
laugh
about?
yes, we laugh all the time, like, so right now I have 22 pending, just myself, and that's, like, pretty normal. That, like, 20 to 30 pending is, like, no big deal. No one's sweating. No, there's the other thing my mom taught me very early in real estate, and I repeat it to myself regularly now, is there are no emergencies in real estate. And that was I didn't believe it for a very long time. And now as just, as I've grown up in this business, I've fully digested that, which there are no emergencies in real estate. Um,
It feels
yeah,
like
and
it. It really
it
feels
does.
like it, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone's trying to win the busy Olympics, and it doesn't have to be like that. And I would say it now, well, at the ripe age of 30, I just feel like I've like really digested that. I have 2 kids under 2 now as well. And so you just kind of rearrange your priorities a bit. And I would say that's kind of, yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Nice. So, when you kind of did that first year, I mean, that had to be pretty darn rewarding. That had to be a big, that was a big stretch goal, obviously making more than what you thought you would, and was that kind of one of the most rewarding things, kind of like that first year, or have there been something since then that was even more kind of like, wow, this is really, I made it, I did it,
I always wish I would have kept a journal because I do feel like those big goals like come and go and it's like in the moment it's everything you worked for and then when you look back 10 years you're like oh yeah that was cool but it is fun to kind of think back and I know one of my biggest goals was I had paid off $50,000 of student loans
hmm
within 6 months of graduating college. So I was doing college and real estate full time. I started real estate um in 2015 and I didn't graduate my senior year of college until 2016. So I was like sort of embarrassing. I would tell my professors like, hey, if my phone rings, I have to leave because everyone thinks I'm this real estate agent. And I would tell them all that at the beginning of the semester. And then I don't think my phone rang ever, right? Because we all think it's going to ring and it
Of
just
course,
did it.
never
Yeah.
rang in class. Yeah, so your
No, it never rang in
professors
class. And
were
I'm like,
like,
oh my God,
"Oh,
they
what's
think
going
I'm a
on?"
fraud. Yeah. I am a really good real estate agent, I promise. So that was a really big accomplishment at the time. I thought that was so cool. And obviously graduating at the same time, as doing all of that. So just some of those really big like that was my goal. I thought that was really cool. And then, in the last 10 years, I feel like all of my life events have happened. So yeah, I graduated college. I got married. I bought my own first house. That was a really big imposter syndrome sort
Mhm.
of thing, was when I first got licensed, I was living in my mom's basement. So here I am trying to sell people houses and I've never even
You don't
bought a
even have your own,
house.
yeah.
Right. So like all of those different things, I think, the most recent, I would say really awesome, like professional accomplishments, if you will. 2023, I was named as one of NAR's 30 under 30.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was really cool.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yes, that was like one of my really big goals. I really wanted to do that. And then maybe just as an entrepreneur anyway, like we're always pushing, we always want more. And so now I'm trying, like I had kind of mentioned, I'm trying to find that fine line between what am I just like comfortable doing while also, doing this new mom thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of challenges that you've had. I mean, so, college and real estate, getting married, getting kids, getting your own house, all of those things. Was there a bigger challenge that you feel like faced in since that 10 years ago when you started this, that beyond just some of those obvious ones?
There's a lot of personal stuff that like, mixes in there where you're just figuring it out and growing up. But I think a lot of it too is navigating what you want your business to look like and
Mhm.
how all of those intertwine. So like now there's such a confidence that comes along with the way that I run my business. And some of that, like if I would have told 21-year-old me, in my first year of real estate, the way that I'm running my business now, she would not believe,
Wouldn't
like,
have
she'd be
believed
like,
you,
no,
yeah.
you don't. No, yeah, no, you don't. You don't do that. Like I'm working less hours selling 76 houses a year than I was selling 30 houses a year. And that concept would not have made sense to me at the time. Setting boundaries would not have made sense. I didn't even know what that looked like. And
Right.
now I'm in a world where so I have a son and a daughter, and my daughter was born very prematurely. And so she has a trach, and she has a day nurse that leaves every day at 4 o'clock. Well, I'm there every day at 4 o'clock. I don't take appointments after 4 o'clock,
Mhm.
and I'm still selling houses, and my clients respect that. And so those boundaries, like, a lot of times we teach our clients how to treat us. And I
Yes.
believe that. And so, if I call up my doctor today at 4 and I'm like, hey, I need to see you at 5. Well, I'm not going to see my doctor. I don't know who I'll see, and it might not be the one, and
Right.
and I think that that's an important lesson too. And I could preach that over and over, and I just don't know if it's something that sticks until you have the confidence to believe it. But that was one thing I think that has grown over the years for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that setting any kind of a boundary, that it's like a fence, right? And it's
Mhm.
not necessarily going to cut you off from somebody, but it's just a good way to have, a simple division. Like you're saying, being there for your child. That's
Mhm.
amazing. It's awesome, and it's good that you are doing that. I know a lot of people, it kind of blends everywhere into their life, and some people, that's fine, right? But some people, you kind of need that ability to shift, I think.
Yeah. I just think that with those boundaries, like you are gonna lose people. Like, and I think you have to be okay with that. And so I think that's why it's important to like know what your goal is, figure out, where's that business coming from? If I lose one client because they don't like that I'm gonna be with my family, is that a client you wanted anyway?
Hmm.
And I think that's a good question, too, to ask yourself, who is your ideal client and how can you go market to those people? And I think that's who we're working with now, is repeat clients, past clients, referrals, and we're attracting the people that are okay and like the way that we do business because we're giving them the experience they want. We're helping them reach their goals. Like that all fits within our little box. And so I feel like, for the people that just want to meet you at the house, they don't want to do a buyer consultation. Well, that's not how we do things. So there are plenty of agents that will do it that way. You can go work with them
Right.
and like having the confidence to say that.
Well, confidence and experience, right? I mean, so to develop your unique approach, kind of what was it that put you in these situations that made you kind of develop this, your unique approach to selling real estate?
Yeah, I mean, most people that maybe have been in the business a while can think of like I can like distinctly remember specific events where I either showed up late to the event or missed like a period of the event because I was out showing houses or I was doing this or I was doing that. And it's always the ones where you are bending over backwards and like falling out of line with the boundaries you set that don't ever work out.
Right.
Like, I remember this one event that I didn't show up on time to because I was showing a house and that kid ended up going and buying a house with someone else. Like, and it's so then you get this like guilt sort of like mixture of like, well, that sucks. Like I don't even know that kid. I'm never gonna see that kid again. And I missed it was important that I was here to this thing on time and I wasn't. And so like I think enough of those start stacking up that you end up just putting boundaries in place and
Yeah. I think as a friend of mine put it one time, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, right? And so
yes.
you start realizing how to pick the
Yep.
right people for you. Have you taken any risks in real estate and have those risks paid off, do you think?
Probably. I don't know if I do enough like slow down and reflection to like think about the risks. Like I think as you're going through it, it's like, oh, this is scary. And then you get on the other side and you forget that it was scary going into it. So I'm trying to think of, there's been different experiences. Like I had partnered with a builder a few years back, kind of pre-COVID and then right during COVID, where I was representing a builder that was so far out of alignment with who I was and the
Mm,
values I have and the just how I treat people. And so that was really challenging because we were trying to, sell houses and work on the same team, but we had like the visions were different.
yeah.
And so I don't know that it was a little bit risky because I was, maybe so out of alignment with who I am that it was affecting other areas of my life. But I think, getting out of business with people who don't serve you or that don't serve the person you want to be, I think is important. And that was one. I also have been on all different like aspects of the team. So like we talked about, I was on my mom's team when I first got started. Then I kind of went on my own. Then I started a team. Then I didn't like that. So now I have like a version of a team. I mean, I have a team. It's a version of a team that suits me and my goals and like my happy place.
Good. That's really nice. I mean, but I think that where you would know a lot of these things if you hadn't taken some of those,
Right.
challenges, some of those risks. It would be really nice if people just came with that circle of what they believed in, and you could see like where does our Venn diagram overlap, right?
Yeah.
And and
Yeah.
unfortunately, you sometimes have to find out the hard way with things
Right.
like that. Now, so one of the things you talked about is the boundaries, and when you're always on an upward swing, right? It's probably feels really refreshing to operate in those. But sometimes if you're slow, do you find that you maybe are bending that? What do you do to stay motivated and stay true to yourself during some of those, I guess, slower times or faster times?
Oh gosh. So I think a lot, when we're going so fast and we're winning gold in the busy Olympics, sometimes we forget that we I just feel like real estate agents are really good at finding things to be busy with that maybe
Hmm.
aren't like income producing. So I basically a coach way back when I first got licensed had, and that I guess maybe that's one is having a coach, having some kind of accountability. That's always been right there for me regardless, and I have a coach now, so like regardless of if I'm coach mentor, if I'm doing really well or not doing really well, like I need that accountability. For me, I was always in sports growing up. I always had a coach, and so
Right.
I think one thing that's interesting is people think they need a coach until they get to their like peak and then they think they don't need a coach anymore. Well, like if you look at, people in the NFL or the NBA or like, any of these athletes at their like highest peak level have a coach. So I think that's an important one is just to have someone to mentor you, to ask questions of, to keep you in line because our brains just naturally are always looking for an exit of like, I know I
Right.
said I wanted that, but like I don't really want to do the work to do that. I just wanted it, type of mindset. So maybe that's just me. That's how my brain works. So that was definitely, having someone there to hold me accountable. And then the just figuring out my calendar, I think that was a really, really big step in like self accountability almost. Where is my time going? The days go by so fast, and it's if I don't have things in my calendar, it doesn't exist. And I think that's been a really big one too. And just like, yeah, taking inventory of, okay, I have no clients. Well, when's the last time I talked to people? When was
Yeah.
the last time I tried to do any sort of prospecting or lead gen, or, that's things don't just like fall into your lap. Sometimes they do. And usually it falls
Sometimes
into
you're
your
lucky.
lap
Yeah.
when you're doing the activities.
Yeah, and I think it's good. I think, developing your calendar is really good because it lets you see where am I making my day-to-day work? Where am I making it happen? Where am I finding the money? I love to coach hop, by the way, to just go back to the coaches.
Yeah.
I find like if there's an area of expertise that I need, like I find a coach for that. And then I like have an accountability buddy, so I've been, done some networking groups and things like that. And,
Yep.
finding those people who are those great accountability buddies. And then, for me, that's enough accountability. But some people, they do need the coach. But I love coach hopping because it's like, here's something that I want to learn more about. Who's the expert in that? And then finding that person. But yeah, every time I've never regretted hiring a coach. They always teach you to look at yourself in a way that's true, and you got to be
Right.
prepared to
Yes,
see that for sure.
absolutely.
So you mentioned that this builder that you worked with, your values didn't exactly mesh. I mean, how did you kind of like, what are your values? What did you do to kind of create those or find those or see them?
So my team now, the team we operate under is called Arrow Real Estate Group, and it's spelled ARO, and that stands for Authentic Relationships, Real Estate Experts, Outstanding Experiences. And a lot of the people that I'm working with, like I said, are friends and family and referral. And so it's important to me that I know people say this, but we like live by it. It's like when the house closes, like that's when the fun starts. Like we host events we host 4 events every year. We're constantly today, the 2 other girls on my team just left to go drop off Valentine's Day pop buys. So like we are like the transaction is like the smallest piece of when we're staying in front of you. Like, and so this builder, for example, was just doing things that didn't make it feel like we were treating the client like the client, and just, yeah, not being truthful, or just, all those kind of things, like just either lying to the client, or,
Mm.
once we were under contract, then trying to come back and increase the price more just because of, XYZ. At that time, lumber was going nuts, which I'm sure people may recall. And so just those kind of things, not helping out with warranty, and just things that were making my life really hard, which maybe selfishly is why I felt it was so out of alignment. Like I'm so used to taking care of people the way that I would want to be taken care of, and loving on them and giving them such a good experience that after closing is super easy. And this experience was not going that way. It was like once we closed, it was like problem, problem, problem. And I'm like, I just don't have time for this. This is not how I operate. And so, yeah, that was probably some of the big things.
Yeah, it revealed itself to just be
Yeah.
not the right thing. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, definitely, like, yeah, sometimes you'll find that there are things that are definitely not helpful. You're talking about lists before. One of the things I love to do is make those lists of things I need to do less of, right? Because they're not making me money. They're not,
Yep.
they're not furthering anything,
Yeah.
as you call it, the busy Olympics, right? So,
Yep.
how do you find that you're able to balance, those kinds of things and stop yourself from just being busy for busy's sake, and really make sure that you're being there for yourself and you're being there for your clients?
Yeah. I think a lot of it, so I have, I keep mentioning the team, but I haven't really dove into what the team looks like. So it's myself. I do have a director of operations, and then I have a full-time showing partner. So my director of operations is like, if I could clone her and like rent her out to other agents, we would be so wealthy. Because she is the best of all time. Like, so she does a lot of that stuff that we're talking about. Like, and I think leverage is so important because we only have so much time in the day. I think, first and foremost, because I've been there, I was by myself, I was the leverage. And I think if you don't have a system for something,
Mhm.
whatever you're currently doing is the system.
Right.
So, and then if you don't have a person to help you do XYZ, that person is you. So like when it started with the checklist, like, I was still giving them 100% effort and like giving them my all. And it was just really small. Now, 100% effort with 3 people looks totally different. Their experience, they're probably leaving the transaction feeling the same. Like they still felt like they were taken care of. I just can take care of more people than I did when I was by myself. But Liv is in charge of everyone knows the things that are not making them money that feel good. Like, I would love to sit on Canva all day and make the prettiest marketing flyer of all time. Like,
Right.
or I can make the best Facebook post you've ever seen. And like, is that the best use of your time? Maybe, but if Liv could go do it and spend half the time because it's going to be just as pretty. She doesn't need to like, obsess over whatever I'm going to obsess over. She gives it to me and I post it. That was way faster than me creating it and thinking about it, creating it and posting it. So leveraging out some of those tasks. And then that's really it. I think just figuring out like where that leverage piece is at.
I'm the madman with Canva who wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning, throws an idea there while it's in my head.
Yep.
And then I say to somebody, can you go make that look nice?
Yeah.
Because like,
I love a
idea's
spreadsheet.
there.
Yes. We
So
have
yeah,
spreadsheets for
the app
everything.
and the team is definitely great for that.
Yes.
Now, you've been doing this for a while. I mean, on your own, right? But then you were there with mom when you were 11. So usually I just ask people, hey, since you started doing this, what are some of the big changes? But obviously you being there, when you were 11 years with mom, you must have been paying a little bit of attention. What are some of the big changes that you've personally experienced in real estate, since you started, I guess, paying attention, let's say,
Yeah.
whether that was 11 or 13 or
Right. Yeah. And it's funny. So my stepdad, Kevin, he's in the business as well. So it's like a whole family affair. But Kevin started real estate when there was an MLS book. So it was like the paper book that got printed every couple weeks. And there was one key to the house with no lock boxes. So you had to like go pick up the key, which I used to joke with him, 2019 to 2021 or two, when we had like multiple offers on everything. I always joked with him like, this one key situation would have been way easier because I could just take the key and nobody else could write an offer because they can't.
right. You're like, no, you can't see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, no wonder you guys didn't have multiple offers. No one else could see the house if I had the key. So, I mean, things like that, obviously, which seem archaic. Like, what do you mean? But even since I've been in the business or even watching mom is like, social media, that was not really a thing, before. And now just having a presence and just like putting yourself out there so that people, just the brand, I think that's kind of different too. I think before there was so much word of mouth and now it's word of mouth, but then before someone calls you, they're going to go figure out if they like vibe with your brand or figure out who you are. And they want to like see who you are online before they maybe make that first call. So I think that's interesting. And that's even different, even since I started, and just the trends and things that are happening. Like I will see things pop up from that I first posted like 10 years ago and I'm like cringing. I'm like, oh my God, I put that on the internet. And now, I would never post that, or like just the way, the things we do now are just so different than 10 years ago. But yeah, that would be a big one. I think just the client experience as well. Like, before, your real estate agent was just your real estate agent. They helped you buy the house, and then closing was closing. See you in 10 years when I buy another house, maybe, and
Right.
I think now it has evolved into this big to do. And like your realtor is like, I mean, maybe that's just us. Like, I just think it's such a big part of like the experience. You're friends with them on Facebook, you're friends in real life, and Omaha's kind of a big little town. Like there's a lot of connections and you're seeing people all the time. So I think everything that the experience encompasses, and I think people want that now too.
Yeah, people, if they don't like you, they're not going to want, those touches. But if you do have that relationship, right, those people, yeah, they're going to remember, oh, I need to call Brittney, like I'm thinking about doing this,
Mhm.
get some input on what I'm thinking here. And
Yeah.
and that's very different from how it was years ago. I mean, obviously, we've come a long way since people were, at real estate offices putting the MLS listing taped to the
In the
window.
window. Yeah. Well, and yeah, I think being a connector more so than anything, I think that's really a big one too, is like my clients reach out to me if they need a paint, like we're like our own version of like Amy's List is like, if, is that the lady that has, yeah, like if you need a painter, you need a carpet guy, like I've referred my carpet guy 3 times today or this week, or my insurance person, like all
Right.
those people, they come to me first. Hey, Brittney, who do you trust? Because they trust me and we've built that relationship. And I think, that's different too. It's not just real estate questions. It's like, well, Brittney would know. Brittney has that, or, that kind of thing too.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think that, you've covered a lot of knowledge, right? And what you've seen come come and go. But do you see any new trends that you think like are kind of coming about, and how are you kind of staying on that?
Oh gosh. Yes. I mean, I think just with all the different like lawsuit stuff and all that stuff that, had come about last August. It was funny because all of that was coming to fruition and I like pieced out for 4 months. I had my son and I took like a true 4 months off. So we sold
Wow.
76 houses in 8 months and then like bye. Like I was like, let's go,
Just like
let's really
pause. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and so it was kind of fun because we let all the kinks work out, and then when we came back January, I was like, "Okay, how's this work? Everyone tell me what's the good, what's the bad, how's this working?" And so I think that was kind of a unique situation where, sometimes when you're in it and you're day to day and you panic and you get sucked into the drama of like all the things, whereas we just sort of took a step back, let everyone like fester, and then found what was working. So I also think it's way less dramatic than it as it's all kind of calmed down and ironed out, than maybe everyone thought it was going to be. I don't know, in terms of trends, I think more than ever, I feel like there's a lot of people who are, every year more and more people starting online and looking online for houses. And so just trying to get in front of them, as quickly as we can, to help guide that process. But I don't know if there's anything, yeah, aside from that, maybe that are.
Yeah, the only thing that I've seen kind of like since that, since that case was that people show a lot of the boring stuff really sped
Mhm.
up. Like, in their Instagram reel, you'll be like, all the papers that are going through, like the
Yeah,
broken pipe that somebody discovered, like the,
yeah,
and they're like, and I'm taking care of all of this for you,
right.
and I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, you
all of
never
that
used to
kind of
see
stuff.
that before. People are proving and showing, what they're actually doing behind the scenes, maybe that people didn't know about.
My clients that just seem to be a lot more confused. Now that I'm explaining they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Okay, are you familiar?" And they're like, "No, I just
They're just like,
what?" I'm like,
take
"I
care
don't
of it.
know."
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
They're
"Okay,
like,
I'll tell you about all about it." Yeah, we're like boring them with all the disclosures and
if you could go back, and tell yourself when you were starting out, like one piece of advice, what's something that you wish you had known back then that you know now?
I think, this is like so corny and I think that's I don't know, that's probably why a lot of these sayings exist, but, I have found in my career that the journey to the goal always, like, meant more than the destination or than, like, the goal itself. So,
Yeah.
the road to who I was becoming before I won the 30 Under 30 award was a lot more fulfilling than, like, the day they told me I won the award. Okay, sweet, now I have it. Now what? Really? Like, I know that sounds so, like, weird, but, I remember my biggest goal one year, my goal was to sell 81 houses. I was so pumped. I wanted to sell 81, and I sold 81 houses. Cool, and nothing happened. Like, there's
Yeah.
no parade. I don't get to go to Disney World. I mean, I guess I could have, but, like, nobody's, like, coming to my door with balloons. It still is an odd conversation when you're telling clients, like, we have a little handout in my buyer and seller packets about the 30 under 30 thing, but like I find it's weird to brag about and it's
Yeah.
weird and nobody cares. Like that sounds really harsh, but that's sort of what I found is that your goals like obviously are for you and the journey of, and who you become and all the experiences that you have getting there is really what it's about. And then the goal itself, achieving it is really just a byproduct of all the things that happened leading up to that moment.
Yeah, it sounds like for you, the real reward or the real award is the relationship that you're building with the client. So, I don't think that that's a bad thing at all for you not to be focusing on, the little plaque that sits there,
Right.
but on what you did to get there. So I think that's pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah.
What do you see people doing, who are starting out? What are some of the common mistakes that you're just like, you wish you could just go and just be like, no, 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 don't
Oh
do
god. I could do a whole episode on this. Um, I love new people. It's so hard because I think as someone who's been in the business 10 years, it's so much easier to be like, do this, don't do that, don't do that. And then sometimes when you're new, it's like, what do you know, lady? You're old. Like
that.
you don't know. Like I'm gonna do it myself. And then it's not until you're in my seat that you're like, oh, that lady was right.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing in real estate is I mean, there's a whole bunch of biggest. I would say 2 things. 1, don't go chase shiny objects. I think we get 700 sales calls a day of people trying to sell us this lead or that fancy thing or this, online blah. Like don't go chase the shiny things. Like, you really need to figure out what is it that you want to do? What is it that you find joy like in doing? And then just do that at 100%. Like, and keep going until it's working. Don't yuck someone's yum. I think that's
Hmm.
the same. People are saying, okay. So like, I loved for sale by owners when I first got started. And I
Yeah.
remember agents coming to me being like, ugh, don't do for sale by owners. That's stupid. They're so mean. And like, just because somebody else had a bad experience with something, if you feel like it can be your thing, go let it be your thing. Like, you don't have to, hinge your success on like someone else's bad story. And that goes for things that work and things that don't work. Because I think it's easy to chase shiny things, and just because it's working for one person, if you're not doing every single thing they're doing, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's how you set up that's how you develop your niche, right? Like, by doing something different from everybody else.
right.
And that can actually be a good thing. That can actually be a good trend that you're setting for yourself and what you do differently.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, do you feel like you've got some resources that you go back to that have helped you, with your business, your career, that you could recommend for other people to go and check out those resources?
So The Millionaire Real Estate Agent was a book that I like held near and dear. I'm no longer even with Keller Williams, but I love that book. And I think any real estate agent, regardless of what brokerage, it's like broker agnostic. It doesn't even talk really about anything with KW in it. It just leaves such a good foundation for what you could be doing or things you should be doing.
Hmm.
And I think that would be a fantastic book. People Over Profit is a really good book, which that's like right in line with what we're doing. I think the other thing is, like, if you're going to go to a training or you're going to go listen to somebody, or even in these episodes, you're listening to this podcast, like, I think as a new agent or even a seasoned agent, you get so inundated with information and you think you need to do it all at once, and you
Hmm.
end up burning out really fast or trying to do everything, and then you can't do everything. And I truly believe a lot of the success that we've had is like, when I go to a training, I'm taking all these notes. When I get back or I listen to something, when I'm done listening, I write down in order the things that I would like to implement, or that I would like to, like, honestly, R&D, like rip off and duplicate. Like, if you see someone that's doing something that's working, sweet, how can I put that into my business and what does that look like? And then crossing it off one by one. We never add more things. That don't bite off more than you can chew. Like, we didn't start doing 7 events a year. We started with one really good pie event. And then
Right.
once I felt comfortable with that, then we added our spring cleaning, our dumpster event. Then now we feel really good about that. We added in putt-putt. So like, we just get really good, and then we just copy it and over and over and over every year. And if there's things you can do better, we start doing it better. And if there's things that like we learn from other people, oh, it'd be easier to do it that way. Cool, do it that way. Like, I think that's hard because everyone wants to go so fast and do so many things at once. And like, somebody who's just getting started or doesn't have these kind of systems looks at me and says, oh, I want to go do what she's doing. I'm going to do that all this year. You're not going to do that all this year. And that's
Yeah.
totally okay. Like, just go at your own pace and get really good at mastering one thing at a time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, what is that one thing on that list that you can implement right now and get
Yes.
really good at, and then move along? Can you add one of the other ones in there?
Right.
That's great advice. If someone's looking, to kind of go to that next level, right? They're looking to scale up their career. What's some advice that you would give to them specifically?
If you don't already, I think figuring out leverage. I think that's the next piece, is if you're a single agent, whether that is like outsourcing your transaction coordination or your social media or your client touches, whatever that looks like. And it's different for everyone. I think if you figure out, for me, I always feel like that next thing is like nagging. Like, it's always showing up. It's always like, oh, I wish I did that. Like, oh, I really want to do that. I keep thinking about that. Like, whatever it is, if you don't have the capacity to do it, finding someone to help you do whatever that is. And it doesn't have to be a full-time director of operations. It can be,
Yeah.
go find an intern, go find, somebody that's aspiring to be in real estate, or a high school kid that is really good at TikTok, or like, I guess not. TikTok's not a thing anymore, or about to not be. So whatever the thing is that you want, go find someone to help you. And it doesn't have to be super expensive. I think that was always something I was very afraid of, is like, spending money. If I, it's scary to be in sales and 100% commission sometimes. Like,
Sure,
well,
yeah.
what if I can't feed my own self, how do I go feed this person? And so, start small and then kind of work your way up. I think that would be my well, I guess that was the other thing I said too. Start small, do things in little pieces. And like the biggest thing is leverage. Like once you feel like you're dropping the ball on things, or I used to wake up in the middle of the night in like a sweat, like I didn't send that email about the earnest deposit. Like
Right.
once you get to that, that ceiling, really, that like, I don't feel like I can do much more on my own, you have to go figure out a way to leverage yourself.
Yeah, well, I think one of the key things, and this I found out when I was managing other people, is that every person you bring on your team should be making you money, and either
Mhm.
it's because they're doing something that you hate doing, that you
Yep.
find time consuming and slow, and it's preventing you from doing something that's making money, or they're actually printing money themselves because the work that they're doing is that valuable. So I think that's one of the easy things that that I overlooked myself until I was in the position of having to hire people.
Yes. And
Right.
I think, like, that's a big thing too with hiring is, like, meeting people where they're at. I think setting expectations is huge. Like, you have to set expectations and then follow up on the expectations you set, and then do it again, like, every 30 days. Like, I just think communication when you have people that are working with you or under you or beside you or whatever, like, you have to be communicating. People cannot read your mind. That is something I've learned the hard way. I didn't know that people can't read my mind. It's just so important to communicate and like, inspect what you expect. And that would be a really big one. And then knowing that everyone else's ceiling is different than your ceiling. Like,
Right.
I think that was a tough one too. I thought when I had my team and was doing the whole big team thing, I just thought everyone was going to do what I do and have what I have, like, why don't you want this more than I can't want this for you more than you want this for you.
Right.
Um, so kind of navigating some of those challenges as well.
Yeah, it's nice when you're all on the same, page, but yeah, not always everybody is in it, and that can be okay. It
Yeah.
can be a workable thing. Now, so you told us a little bit about how you're maintaining some of those strong relationships with your clients. How do you build some of those strong relationships with your clients? And I'm assuming that obviously your team helps with that a little bit.
Yeah. A lot of it is our client touches. So, we kind of talk about like everything that happens post closing, but um, we have all the normal basic things, like the home anniversary cards, um the events we were talking about. I the being a connector of things. Like I think just constantly staying in front of them, but in a way that feels genuine, in a way that doesn't feel like I never, and maybe this might be like, don't do this. I don't know. I never ask for business. I never ask them who they know that's looking to buy or sell. Like that's just not, it feels icky. It feels salesy for me. So
Hmm.
I just want to be there when things are happening and like be there enough times for them and build that trust so that when that conversation comes up, because it will, that
Hmm.
it's just a natural choice. So a lot of things that we do are like the pop buys, just the ones that everyone gets. But then also we do things, I use social media as a tool to go do things in real life. So,
Right.
if somebody passes away or not them actually, but if they have someone in their family that passes away or, just recently one of my clients' dads passed away and we sent flowers to the funeral, or we know people are constantly telling you things. And I think as
Right.
salespeople, sometimes we tend to like, oh, okay, you have knee surgery. That's great. When are we selling your house? Like, well, no, maybe the knee surgery was important. And so like we put those things on our calendar and we send them gifts based on like what they have going on. So one of our clients, Jenny, she has a knee surgery on March 13th. She's going to be getting a little gift from us. Or if someone's like pet passes away, just being there
Yeah.
in life's moments, because we also know that a lot of times real estate transactions happen when big life moments happen, whether that's marriage, death, divorce, um, getting relocated for work, like all those kind of things. So just trying to
Right.
position ourselves to be there right when those big events are happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're not just looking like you only care about the sale, and
Yeah, right.
you're actually connecting with them as people. I think that that's a great thing as well.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time when you're kind of doing all of this? I mean, you mentioned in the past that you've had some clients who just didn't click and didn't connect. What are kind of some of the stories that that happened with that, and what did you learn, I guess, about yourself or clients in that?
Yeah. I've had like kind of two different situations. I've had the ones where they don't reply, they don't reply, they don't reply, and I've like spiraled. I'm like, oh my gosh, they hate me. Something must have happened. They're never going to talk to me again. And then, they call me and they're like, hey, I need to sell my house. And I'm like, you haven't talked to me in years. And they're like, you're my realtor. Like, I don't need to talk to you. Like, so there's really people that are like, yeah, I see your stuff. I'm grateful for you. I don't really care. I don't need you. Like, and then I think that's kind of most of it is where it's me like in my head, like, oh my God, do they hate me? Like they never want to talk to me again. And then they show up to pick up their Thanksgiving pie and they're like, everything's great, blah, blah, blah. I have a referral for you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, they didn't hate me. Okay, great.
So while you're worrying you're transactional, they're actually the ones who are transactional.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know. I think on the ones, this sounds really bad, but on the ones where it's like, I think I'm not great at I have so much stuff on my plate. I'm not great at follow-up, I would say. If it's not systematized, like if it's not our past clients and it's
Mhm.
just like so and so made their way into my inbox at some point, they wanted to buy a house. I started the process, but then like I forgot to follow up and they didn't follow up. That's one of my that's one of my downfalls, I would say. Like if you reach out to me to buy a house and then you didn't follow back up after I tried to like get the ball rolling, like I can't help you. But so that's an area I'm trying to improve on is like really like, circling back with people who didn't get pre-approved or who didn't like kind of got lost in the shuffle there. So
Right. Yeah, yeah, I mean, there definitely can be a lot of shuffles in this. So, yeah, putting people, in a CRM or on your calendar, those reminders for me, are fantastic. Same.
I come across sticky notes all the time and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, did that person buy a house? I don't even remember.
Yeah, it's good that I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
So you talked, kind of about how, like the name of your group means something, and obviously, you have these events, and that's all part of your brand, I guess. How did you build that brand together with these other
Yeah.
folks?
Yeah, so I think so when I was on mom's team, and this is not a knock against mom because obviously she's my mom and I love her. And her last name is Irish. And so her team name was Team Irish. And I just always felt so weird about that because I'd be on listing appointments and everything was branded Team Irish. And they're like, oh, are you Irish? And I was like, no, I'm Polish. My last name, my maiden name is Kazmierski. I'm like, no, I'm not Irish. Like, so I just had such a weird, like, I never wanted to name it after myself because at one point when I was starting the team, and I had this vision of bringing all these people on this team was I want it to be a brand that stands by itself and everyone's like proud to be a part of it and it means something. It's not like, oh, that's Brittany's team or, oh, that's, the Brittany team or whatever. And so that was really the inspiration behind it. And then, yeah, I just wanted it to mean something, I think, more than anything. And then now it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And my clients are, like, oh, arrow. Like, I think sometimes they think Arrow is like its own like brokerage. It's not, but
Mhm.
they they don't know. And I think that's also kind of a funny kind of like detour too, is like your clients, they don't care. They don't care where you're at, who you like, what team you're on, or what brand or brokerage. They just care that you're taking care of them. Like,
Yeah.
and I think if the brand means that, then they, are good with that. I don't feel like any of our clients have ever once been like that invested really like in what we're doing. They just want to make sure that they are getting taken care of and that, they're making the money they want or they're finding the house they want. They don't really care like what we have going on. And I think a lot of times the branding or it's more for us. Like we want it to look pretty and all be the same. And like,
Right.
I feel like I give them these like fancy folders and they like toss it. They're like, okay, like where do I sign?
But, for the people who are cyber sleuthing, right, who are looking for people out there, you have that presence and I would assume that might, must look good and give people a good feeling about who you are.
Right.
What has been one of the moments that, looking back that you're really proud of as a professional?
Like a lot of like proud moments along the way. I think what I'm most proud now is like to be able to do stuff like this, to be able to speak at like national conferences and people are asking me to be on, podcasts and things like um, that makes me feel proud because it's like it means I've built something that's worth listening to or, that I can reach back and like help pull people up with me. Like I think that's um, I don't my kids are little, so, like, they're not selling houses right now, but, like, I think my mom, was able, like, to do that for me. When I started, I was standing on the shoulders of others, and I think I didn't have to reinvent the wheel, and so I think that's been really cool, is to give that same experience to other people, whether you're brand new in the business or like you said, you've been in the business, you're just maybe hitting a wall. Like I feel proud to be able to help those people and kind of coach them through those kind of things.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's really great to give back, and like you said, not pull the ladder up behind you, and help other people,
Yeah.
navigate their way up it, because it's not always just a straight, a straight
Yeah.
climb. What do you see happening kind of in the next 5 to 10 years of your career? Do you have any kind of plans over I hate to be like, what's in 5 years, but,
Yeah. Oh gosh, I am not good at the 5-year thing. I like can't think ahead. Like I don't even know what's for dinner. Like I'm sort of in that like survival mode right now. If you can see the bags under my eyes, that is like, we're just kind of like going with the flow. I like to set 1 year at a time. I think that's sort of just where we're at. I feel like 5 years from now, I think the biggest thing is like, yeah, continuing to do well for my clients and do well by them, but then also the girls on my team, like, if they're not achieving the goals that they have set, like, then I'm not achieving the goals I have. Like, I want them to be able to have the things they have or want and like build them up along the way. So 5 years from now, I don't know, I'll have a almost 7-year-old and then a not quite 6-year-old, and that'll be crazy. And then I'll feel really old. I'll be in my 30s, like really in my 30s.
so old. Yeah. Right.
So old. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit scary because you don't really know what that looks like, right? With everything going on and like, just the industry in general. I feel like there's so many new things coming and going that, for me, it works best just to like keep my head down and like, what's next? Like,
Yeah.
do it that way.
Yeah. I know. I definitely can understand looking, a year out. There's definitely been times in my life where I'm like, look, I'm just headed to next week,
Yeah. Yeah. Everything I plan, it's like the craziest things. It's like you spend so much time planning and then the opposite happens and you're like, what? This is not what I planned. Like, so yeah.
So now you mentioned that the kids aren't in real estate yet. So, is there kind of like a hope, a little, Team Brittney, kind of family going on,
Yeah.
that you're going to start your own?
Oh gosh. I don't know. My husband would be like, absolutely not. Right now we're just using them as a write-off. We'll get them in our marketing and
There you go.
really exploit the kid thing. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I think, I don't know. That's a really fun thing too, is like, I always like, what do they want to do? What are they going to like? What are they like? I think that's so cool I don't know what they'll like. Maybe they'll my sister hates real estate, does not want to talk about real estate, doesn't want to look at it. Like, and then you have me who like lives, breathes, like, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, I'm not going to push it on them, but I also think it's,
the door will be open. Come on in.
Yes. Come on in.
Now, as you've, been doing this for a while, so we're talking about almost 10 years, have you had some pretty interesting conversational, properties that have come up, that are kind of unusual in some way or another that, just kind of fun stories to share?
I've had a wide range of sales. So like in Omaha, like our average price point is like high 200s, I would say, maybe low 300s at this point. Which is a whole nother weird thing, is like being in the business for 10 years, like what things cost now is just so different than what it was. And I'm still like wrapping my head around it too. Like when you do comps and you're like, gosh, I wouldn't pay that for that house, but it's worth that. Like that's what the numbers say, like it's just
Right.
That's been a weird realization. But like the smallest or like the least expensive house I ever sold was $25,000. It had a dirt basement. When I went to like walk through the house for the first time, it looked one way. And then when I went back, like for pictures, they had taken everything out and like sold everything. Like there was no kitchen appliances. Like there was a mouse on the floor. Like I was like, what in the, like, how do I, so never a dull moment. I feel like that. Yeah. All the way up to like 1.6 million. I had clients that built this like gorgeous house. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a good, like, and everything in between.
Yeah, I definitely very true about some of the houses where it's like, they're asking that for that property. I drove by a house the other day that has a for sale sign, and I was like, man, I never know where that is. Like, I wouldn't buy that.
Yeah, you sounds like you play that same game I do. Like, if I'm driving around town and you see a sign on, like, a busy street, I'm like, "Oh, that sucks. I would never want that listed." You're like,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
you would take it. You know
Like,
you
oh,
would
I've
figure
been in
it out
that house. No, don't go in there.
100%.
Yeah. Um, Now, if you weren't in real estate, have you ever thought about this? What would it be that you'd be doing?
I don't even know. My degree is in marketing, but I went to college knowing I was gonna be a realtor, so everything I've done since I was 11 was 100% geared to where we are at today, so I don't really know. I mean, I always say well, I don't this might like, maybe every self-employed person does this. I, like, quit all the time in my head. I'm like, "Oh, this is" like, no. Everyone has those
Yeah.
days. I'm like, "That's it. I'm done. I can't. I'm not gonna sell any more houses. This is it." Um I always say I would be like a fantastic assistant to somebody because like I have my poop in a group. I know everything now that I would be like so good assisting someone. Um but I never do. I know. I don't know what I would do because I also don't I don't know what it's like really to like report to anyone, I think it would be
Hmm.
weird to like yeah.
Yeah, you'd be in shell shock. I'm sure
Yeah.
that's
And that's, like, a weird realization too is, like, this is my dream job. Like, this is what I wanted to do. So it's like
yeah.
living a cooler version of what I ever thought this would look like, and so that's very humbling, I would say too, very grounding to be like, "Oh, I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do." Like, so remembering that, and this is a good I've never really thought about that, so
That's really cool to look back though and think that. So, you
yeah.
know, but also, yeah, interesting. Like, what would you do? So that now you're going to wonder about that. What's something about you that fun fact people don't know that maybe they should?
Oh gosh. So many random fun facts just ran through my head that are probably not even relevant whatsoever. Um, gosh, I don't really know. Um, I've torn both of my Achilles tendons, which is, like, super random, and
Yeah.
it's a fun fact. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, but I'm not from Buffalo, so, my grandparents are, my dad is, but, um, yeah, I don't know. Sadly, I don't have a ton of fun facts because all I do is real estate and now mom things, so my life is not super interesting.
If
I don't
you
have
need
any
some
hobbies.
swaddling techniques, I'll
Yeah, there you
definitely
go.
let you know.
Yeah, I can change a diaper without waking a kid up. I don't know if that's a good yeah, that's a
That
nice
that
skill.
definitely that's a skill. That's definitely a skill. Maybe a talent as well in there.
There you go.
Um, Now, I mean, I like to have these questions, in as we get to the end because we are, just about at the end. And one of the ones that, some people really have to think on this a little bit. But if you could buy and you could live any place in the world, any property in the world, there weren't any limitations, you had an endless bank account, and somebody could make that dream come true, where would you want to live and why?
Probably something because this would be, like, so outside of my comfort zone would be to something that would be, like, off the grid and just maybe not be there full time because that's a little scary, but something that is just, like, somewhere you can go that is yeah, you don't have there's 0 responsibility, you just can
There you go.
hang
Nice little retreat
out, right?
from the world,
Yes,
unplug, disconnect. Yeah, you're off the grid.
yeah.
No
I don't
phone to
know
ring.
yeah, nothing to ring, nothing to just something to be present. I think that's where I'm at in this stage of life is learning to be present because we're always pushing for more and always like, what comes next? What comes next? And then, all of a sudden you look back and I have an almost 2-year-old, which I don't even know where the last 2 years went. And I feel like that's kind of a common theme I hear from a lot of parents is like, it goes so fast. And so kind of forcing myself to be as present as I can.
Yeah, it's definitely yeah. Parenting is a blink of an eye. It seems like sometimes
And then
the
the
days are
opposite.
slow and the years are fast. So,
Yes. Yep.
yeah, I mean, do you have any stories about some kind of really off the wall things, crazy, funny, etc., that happened when you were at a showing? Like somebody who didn't belong there, or
Oh.
you were in the wrong house, or
I have done all of those. Yes. I think The funniest, maybe like most embarrassing story. So the first time I ever showed a house was, so I was on phone duty, which is not even a thing. Like the offices used to have like a home phone and you would sit in this little closet and the phone would ring and you would like help someone that saw, like at this time, no one even saw things online. They were like driving by and saw a sign. And then you have to work with this person to try to figure out where this house
Where it
was.
was.
Yeah. I'm like, what color was the house? Did it look like, and you're like scrolling as quickly as you can through the MLS to like find where it is they're looking. Yeah, that was a whole journey. So this person had called and I was so excited. It was the first time I was on phone duty. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'll meet you there. I'll meet you at the house. This is going to be great. You're not working with an agent? No. Okay, great. So I'm like, okay, fantastic. We're going to go. I'm going to meet you at this house. So I leave phone duty, get in my car. I'm driving. I call my mom and I'm like, oh my God, I'm on my way to my first showing. I'm so excited. This is great. She's like, oh, okay. Like, who's the listing agent? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, well, who'd you set up the showing with? I was like, what do you mean set up the showing? She's like, well, you're just going to show up to the house and show the house. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know okay. So I like pull over, like also like, which is crazy too, that I don't know, pull over on the side of the street. I'm like trying to figure out like how to set up a showing. I didn't call anybody. I'm like, well, we're like 2 minutes away. I'm supposed to meet these people at this house. She's like, well, I guess I'll like ask the seller if they can leave. So we're like pulling up to the listing as they're leaving. Oh, I didn't even know you had to set up a showing at my first showing. So
That's pretty fun. Yeah, that's one way to learn, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, on that note, Brittney, it has been wonderful getting to know you, to know about your journey. I mean, all the way from 11 years old to, 30 under 30 and beyond. And I'm sure that a lot of people who are going to be listening to this are going to want to learn more about you. What is the best place for them to go to find more about you?
Oh gosh, probably Instagram. That's kind of the quickest way I would say. So it's at realtor Brittney, and Brittney is Brittney.
All right. Well, great. Well, we will make sure to tag that. And I'm sure if we've got some other places, we will tag those as well. Just ask, of course, that, you share us to your audience as well so that they can kind of get a little bit more knowledge about who Brittney is. And thank you for joining us. That is going to wrap up this episode of the Inner Circle podcast. And I hope that everybody who's listening found something enlightening and have some great takeaways on how to take their real estate career to the next level. So thanks everybody for tuning in. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Instagram at America's Inner Circle. Thanks again to our guest, Brittney McAllister, and we'll see everybody next time.